Welcome to episode 281 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Bridget Prue here with Scott McLaughlin. Brian, I guess, is stuck at work. So we do not have Brian today. We all had a really busy day today. That's why we're recording late. Like, we would have preferred to have done this in the morning, but we were all very busy. For me, it's crunch time for college hockey. And all hands on deck with 3 college hockey games this week, 2 playoff games for the women, a PC men's game. I'm all over the place. So I was doing coaches calls while I was working the Red Sox game at WEI. I don't know. I had no time until tonight, and apparently neither did Brian. So he is not here.
I think Brian's really just so depressed and dejected from all these blown leads that he's like, guys, we're gonna need another couple days.
Yes. Brian tends to be the negative one, except for it's been Scott recently. I feel like you've turned. It's like when you have a friend. It's like that episode of The Office where Michael starts, like, Pam was freaking out, but then she has to be calm because Michael starts freaking out. It's like one person has to get their shit together to calm the other one down.
Yeah, well, see, you know what's weird? Like, the dynamic, it changes because on here, Brian is going to be the more pessimistic one, and we have to reel him back in sometimes. But then I feel like on Sunday Skate, it's like it's not going to be you, it's not going to be Razor. So it's like I'm free to just like let that side take over on Sunday morning.
Bad boy. He's ready to let his bad boy out.
Yeah. Well, and like especially like Sunday mornings, like 11 hours after they blow that game in Vancouver, and it's like, you know, it's not. I'm still feeling it, you know. Like, yeah, there's no recovery time.
And you know what? I have a feeling this podcast could go like that too, because you haven't had a lot of time to recover from that game last night in Seattle that ended at 1 a.m. again. Of course, every game that starts at 10 p.m. gotta go overtime, shootout. Can't, just can't go to bed.
Yeah, that's just every Bruins game period now.
Yeah, no, they're all gonna go to overtime. Spoiler alert. If you recorded it and then you woke up in the morning, first of all, good for you. You didn't stay up till 1 a.m. Second of all, it was a very long recording, and I'm sorry if you got to the ending and were disappointed by the results, which we will get into. So we actually disagree about, like, though we agree that this road trip has been like very frustrating in a lot of ways, and we agree on certain things that have gone wrong and that need to get fixed. We also disagree a lot about a few things from last night's game in Seattle. So, or at least in a nuanced way. So I'll start with my opening shift, and then we can debate it after, because Scott already tried to debate me on it before we even started recording. So what I was saying to him was, like, my main takeaway, like, when I think back on the game against Seattle, there were a few different times where it was like, okay, this is it. Like, here they are, they're back. And then it was no. It was like, okay, strong first period, great. Okay, second period, good. Like, they have a lead, and then all of a sudden it's the same old crap. It's the same, you know what, different day. And then like, okay, Pasternak scores a hat trick, and you're back like, great. Here we go again. This could be it. And then it was an emotional roller coaster for people who haven't given up yet, right? So I sit there and I watch the games now for, like, is this the moment that things get back on track? And it could be anything from like something emotional, like that Morgan Geekie goal that got called back. I think it was a stupid call, but I also really felt like it could have been a boost emotionally for the Bruins, because it meant something to him. And the little girl that was there that he helped with her, helped get her a bone marrow transplant. And like, there was a really nice story about how, him and his connection. Obviously he played in Seattle, but his connection to that little girl that had cancer, and you could just see on his face that goal meant more to him than any other time. Like, never seen him that emotional after a goal. And it could have been a significant moment, maybe boost the energy. give some emotion to the team, and then it gets called back. And so you're like, oh, that's great. And you're cheering or whatever if you're a Bruins fan, and then you're right back down to, I went from being like, that's a great moment because they showed the little girl super excited. I was like, this is a great moment. And then I went from that to screaming at my TV. So, and it was very late and I was very grumpy already. So that's all to say. It was a roller coaster in the same way most of the games have been since the road trip started. And just when you think there's going to be this moment that things can get back on track and you can build off of, it just goes the other way again.
See, that's why you should just give up hope like I have. And
this is the problem. Mr. Sassy again.
No, yeah, I mean, we'll get into it more, but like at second intermission, they're playing well. They're up 2-1. And there was no doubt in my mind that they were going to blow that. That at the very least, that it was going to end up tied at some point in the third period. And then, see what happens from there. Like maybe they still find a way to win in regulation, although they haven't done that recently. They've now gone 9 games without winning in regulation. So, that's not good. But yeah, we'll get into my feelings on the game and on all these blown leads. But my opening shift is building off something that I said on Sunday Skate, which is I feel like this team needs a real shakeup if they're going to be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. No matter what their record is, no matter what seeding they finish with, I just have a hard time seeing this team make a deep run as is. I do have a little bit of an addendum to that, which is that I also wouldn't blame Don Sweeney if he decides that there's just not a good way to shake things up and that it's better to just stand pat and retool in the summer, because that would be boring to me. Like that's not what I want. Shakeups are more exciting to talk about and write about. And I think it would make this team more of a cup contender. But
yeah, that's the whole point, Scott.
Yeah, but I also acknowledge that for Don Sweeney to do anything is going to be very difficult. Like we've gone over it, and we'll talk about it again before the March 8th trade deadline. But they have very few assets, no cap space, so it's not going to be easy. And if Sweeney doesn't think there's enough, if there's a big enough move out there for him to make that turns him into a cup contender, then don't just make moves around the don't give up assets for a rental or a depth player, something that makes a marginal difference. Either go big and try to make this team a better looking cup team on the fly, or say I've done what I can. We're in cap hell. We still are. Let's get back at it in the summer.
Okay, well, you are so hot and cold this week. I don't even know, who is this Scott? I could show up to work tomorrow and you could be like, actually, they should just add a fourth liner.
No, I think
all over the place.
I think I'm out with that. I think it either needs to be go big, or just stand pat and save up all your assets for the summer.
That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Which one?
They're not just going to stand pat. It's just not how that's going to go.
I think you're right, because I think Sweeney will feel the need to show some level of investment, if nothing else, then to the room, show the guys that you believe in them. But I wonder if secretly he maybe doesn't believe in them. You know what I mean? I wonder if part of him feels the same way I do, which is this team is at least one big move away. And if you can't make that big move, what are you really doing? Are you giving up a second round pick for a fourth liner? What does that really accomplish?
It's not that you can't make a big move. It's that it's what it's going to take, right? It's going to take trading Ullmark or DeBrusk. Yeah. It's going to take that. So it's not that it can't happen. It's that you have to convince yourself that you're comfortable with parting ways with someone that you weren't originally thinking you would have to if the team didn't look like it needed such a big shakeup. So I personally side on based on history and the way that Don Sweeney operates at the trade deadline, that he is more likely to go do something that surprises people and trade someone off the active roster, or, you know, make a bigger move than people are expecting and that maybe we haven't even thought of, you know, all the stuff that goes on behind closed doors. But I think that's more likely than him just doing nothing, like, or just like trading a fourth liner for, you know, or trading for a fourth liner for a mid round or late round draft pick, or swapping guys that are bottom six, or, you know, fourth liners or whatever. I think that they're more likely to do something big than they are to do nothing at all, because that's just not, I don't think that's how Don Sweeney works. I don't think Don Sweeney counts them out for the whole season, that they're not going to be able to make a deep playoff run. They were in first place. Scott, do you remember that?
They still are.
That's what I'm talking about.
They still have the best record in the Eastern Conference.
So you're like not a cup contender. Like, I know you and your freaking analytics. What are you gonna hit me with now? With some deep stats, the Corsi percentage, whatever.
Okay, here's one. Here's a fun one. Of the 16 teams currently in the playoffs, they rank 15th in high danger chances allowed.
Is that supposed to change my mind?
Well, it says that 14 of the 16 playoff teams are better than them at not giving up high danger chances. Here's another one. When this ties into the blowing leads, playing with the lead this year, they rank 22nd in the NHL in Corsi when they're playing with the lead. Of the 16 playoff teams, they rank 14th. We can go through all the blown lead stats. They have the worst record among playoff teams when leading after 2 periods. 8. They're now 9 losses when leading after 2 periods, most in the NHL. Like, all this stuff, I just think is too much to overcome. Like, it's not even like they're playing good hockey and just having bad luck. Like, they legitimately just play like crap when they have the lead in the third period. It's legitimately bad hockey.
You do not think it's fixable at all. Like, you've gone to the point where this is just not fixable for you.
We're 4 months into the season? And I haven't
played this every month.
I haven't seen any improvement. Like, every time it looked like they were maybe turning a corner, they take a step back. So, you know, now we're less than 2 weeks from the trade deadline, really just a little over a week. Like, I don't know. How long am I supposed to wait for them to turn it around and figure it out?
Everybody knows there's ebbs and flows to a season, and there are obstacles that you have to get over, and it's not the same team last year that didn't have any obstacles, really. This is just what happens. Like,
but it's not happening to the other top teams in the league. The other top teams in the league are closing out games.
Yes, but they're still finding a way to stay in first place. Like, that's
because all these games that go to overtime, they still get a point. Which, by the way, completely separate. But the NHL needs to go to a 3-point system. Like, the loser point is so stupid. You get 3 points for a regulation win, 2 for an overtime or shootout win, 1 for overtime or shootout loss, 0 regulation loss. Like,
yeah, that's college. That's what they do in college. So
yeah, because so we look at this road trip, and I even heard like some of the Bruins players saying after the game, like, well, we got 5 of 8 points. And it's like, does that feel like a 5 out of 8 road trip? Like, do you look at that road trip where they go 1-0-3 and think, yeah, that was better than 50%? No, like, so if you had the 3-point system, it would be 5 out of 12, which sounds more like how that
what
road
they
trip
deserve.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, to your point, I'll give you this one, because if we're talking about like what happens in the playoffs, if they go to overtime, and if this road trip was like the results of a playoff series, so starting with the 4 games with the Oilers, so they win game 1, they go to overtime, lose game 2, go to overtime, lose game 3, go to overtime, lose game 4. So they're at this point, they would be in a hole where they would be down 3-1 in a playoff series if it was playoff rules, right? Like overtime losses don't get you shit in the playoffs. So I mean, you don't get a point for that. So
I have something else I want to get off my chest on that too. So I've heard this now like multiple times about because the Bruins obviously pretty clearly suck at 3-on-3, or have for most of the season. And it's like, well, good thing that you don't have to play 3-on-3 overtime in the playoffs. And it's like, yeah, but like, is it supposed to be comforting that, okay, oh, well, if you blow a third period lead in the playoffs and go to overtime, at least it's 5-on-5. And I'm like, I don't know. Have you watched playoff hockey? Because it's still a crapshoot. Like, it's still a 50-50 proposition. It still just takes one play, one bounce, one mistake. So, like, the whole idea is you got to close these games out in regulation. And whether overtime's 3-on-3 or 5-on-5, like, that remains true. The bigger problem, like, yeah, I don't care that they stink at 3-on-3. Like, whatever. The bigger problem is that they keep ending up there because they keep blowing these leads.
Yeah. And to that point, if you can't hold a lead, I guess there is a difference between 6-on-5 and 5-on-5. Like they're struggling when they're the extra attackers on the ice. And obviously that wasn't the case last game, but we've seen it crop up and we talked about it on Sunday Skate with Razor. But like 5-on-5, they're not holding leads. Like they're giving up goals in the late stages. And yeah. And by the way, you're not going to overtime most games that you play like they did against Seattle in the third period because you're not getting a hat trick from David Pastrnak every game. Well, or at least we thought it was a hat trick from David Pastrnak. But that's a separate story. But like, you're not always going to get a 3-goal performance from or a 2-goal performance from your best player. That's just not going to happen for you every game. Like sometimes you rely too much on that and goaltending to bail you out. And that is where I do think there's a problem. Like, I'm not saying that this road trip has shown me like positive signs, really. I'm just saying I think it's too soon to just completely jump off the boat like Scott is. Have fun in the ocean, Scott. Like, I'll throw you a life raft if you want to come back at some point. But I'm not ready to be like, oh yeah, nope, done, season's over. Like, you remind me of some radio personalities that I usually argue with in the hallways, I don't agree with.
I understand anything can happen in the playoffs, and there's been plenty of teams that aren't playing great when the playoffs start and end up making deep runs. And like the 2011 Bruins had, like, they slumped pretty close to the end of the regular season. Like they had a bit of a dip, like I want to say late March, maybe even into early April, and then even fall behind 2-0 to the Canadiens in the first round, and then wake up and start going. So I get that it can happen. So I don't totally rule that out. It just doesn't seem, especially like I just can't ignore this big flashing sign every time they blow a lead and be like, oh no, that'll be fine. Like, don't worry about that, guys. Like, I'm sure they'll figure it out. And it's like, no, at some point it's like you gotta look at the sign and be like, I don't know, maybe I should actually pay attention to that because it's not stopping.
You want to know what I like about Sunday Skate? It's like me and Razor versus you most of the time. So like, I feel like we get to we get to stick together, and he's not here right now, but I know he would be saying, what the hell, Scott? Give it up already. Because by the way, his tone was that he was not worried, right? It was like pump the brakes on this hysteria over losing a few overtime games, shootout games on the road trip. He's the opposite of you. He also obviously comes from a completely different background. Where
he's Canadian. He's just too nice.
Canadian.
But even with that though, like even Razor acknowledged there is a lot to fix here, and like we can.
Nobody said there wasn't anything to fix. The question is it fixable before the playoffs and for the playoffs? That's the difference.
Yeah, and to me, like without some sort of shakeup to the roster. It feels like a lot. It feels like a lot that has to get fixed. Like I think that they play way too passive when they have the lead. They end up trapped in their own zone at, third period last night. Like you think, you're playing well, you have the lead, final game of the road trip, like come out, leave it all on the line. Seattle gets the first 9 shots on goal of the third period. Like it just can't happen. They can't get out of their own zone.
Yeah,
leaving guys uncovered in front of the net remains a problem. Like the Oliver Bjorkstrand goal that made it 3-2 Seattle. He just finds a soft spot between Grizzly and Carlo and gets the tip. And it's like, that's happened too much.
And there was another, the game tying goal. So third period starts. Bruins get outshot 9-0. One of those shots goes in the back of the net. Geeky loses a face-off and Dunn scored to tie it 2-2. So we're following this theme of face-off losses that within the next 30 seconds end up.
I think it was actually Frederick that lost that face-off.
Oh, was it Frederick? Yeah. Well, it's another face-off loss, and it's been different people at different times. It was Zaka. It was, the only one it seems to not happen too much is Charlie Coyle, but it's still, it's these face-off losses that in the D zone that are turning into, and it's a lot of point shots that are finding their way through, whether redirected or noticed that as a theme recently as well. But they're missing a forward. Like, do you at least, you might not agree, but I fall back in the camp of forward is the place to target if you're going to do something big. Like if we're talking about a real big move that's going to save it, like
I still lean towards left shot defenseman as more of a need, but
think about what's been killing them.
This is kind of the point of this is kind of the point of like needing a lot though, because I do think they need another scorer. Like one of the problems here, and you mentioned them being too reliant on Pasternak. Too many guys have gone quiet. Too many of their forwards have gone like way too quiet right now. Like I had the numbers, but Brad Marchand 1 goal in the last 9 games. Pavel Zakin, none in the last 9. Jake DeBrusk 1 in the last 13. Trent Frederick 2 in the last 12. Morgan Geekie 2 in the last 22. Danton Heinen 1 in the last 9. James Van Riemsdyk 0 points in the last 5 games. Like the fourth line, the call-ups, I think they continue to be fine. Your Boqvist, Richard, Brazeau, no issue with the way those guys are playing. Pasternak's still, doing his thing, carrying the load. Coyle has 3 goals in the last 3 games. Like he's fine. I have no issue with him right now. But the rest of that group, like that's 7 forwards in your top 9 that are just too quiet right now. And it's like if even a couple of them are going, then maybe you extend some of these leads, and we're not talking about it coming down to the wire and getting to overtime.
Man, DeBrusk had a breakaway you should have scored on.
Mm-hmm.
That one was rough. And that's another moment where you're like, so like as a broadcaster, I also see the game, like I have to see it emotionally, right? Because I'm supposed to bring emotion to a broadcast. So I'm supposed to, like, when I see Jake DeBrusk going a clear breakaway, my mind is going like this is an elevated situation where this could lead to a goal. This could lead to like something exciting. And then it's another dud. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I have to watch it a certain way where my emotions follow the action. And it's for both teams. Just as a mental exercise that I do in order to, be a better broadcaster. So then you have that, and then it drops, right? And unfortunately for the Bruins, it's not been, extending those or finishing those chances where you would get heightened, and then you would expect a payoff, and then there's no payoff. I do want to switch gears a little bit because we've talked about this.
One more problem, like I think we have to talk about. You mentioned goalies, bailing them out, which they've done in the past. That has not happened recently. Like Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman have Swayman has a 904 save percentage since the All-Star break. Ullmark 903. That's literally league average. The league average is 904. The way the Bruins are built and the way they've invested in goalies, like, you need better than league average. And yeah, I'm just talking about, like a 3-week stretch here. So obviously on the season as a whole, Ullmark and Swayman have been very good. But it's another thing where it's like, if they were really on top of their games right now, we also might not be talking about so many blown leads. Like, Ullmark just gave away a goal last night on the, Bruins are shorthanded, and he tries to clear it up the middle, shoots it right into Jordan Eberle for a goal. And it's like, there's that. And then you mentioned a point shot, Vince Dunn. There might have been a little bit of a moving screen, rewatching it again this morning, but it's still, a shot from kind of the upper left circle that beats him under the glove. It doesn't look great. I didn't think Ullmark looked very good in Calgary either. Swayman had a rough game in Edmonton. I thought he was better in Vancouver. But, they're not getting that extra save that they need right now either. So that's another problem in all this, is that, they are a team that's very reliant on their goaltending. And right now it's just been average.
Yeah, and I don't think people would disagree about that point either. What I was saying at different points in the season, they relied on that to bail them out. And basically, you really notice the flaws when there isn't that spectacular save by Ullmark, like diving, or Swayman, like coming out and making a huge stop. But at different times, there have been things that saved them. Pastrnak being one of them, like goaltending being one of them. Not necessarily in this stretch, but at different
special
points.
Teams being one of them for the first half of the season.
Yeah, penalty killing was great.
And now really, like, both special teams units have been failing them, or at least haven't been good enough.
Yeah.
And they did get get a big power play goal last night. What we thought was Pasternak's hat trick wound up being tipped by Coyle. So at least the power play did that.
Stole another hat trick from Pasta. How rude.
Well, they've also each given each other a hat trick this season.
I know.
So
I know. I'm sure Charlie, wishes he could just be like, give it to him. I barely got a piece of it. But yeah. Do you want to switch gears to special teams now? Because I do have some thoughts. The power play units got switched up. But also there was a key missing piece of their penalty kill in Seattle, and that was Derek Forbort, because he missed a team meeting or was late to a team meeting, and Jim Montgomery said that was the reason why he sat against Seattle.
Yeah, not exactly what you want to be doing when you're already kind of struggling to keep your lineup spot and not playing very well, and you have a contract situation and your name's popping up in trade rumors and people are saying, this is an area of the roster that they need to upgrade. Yeah, missing a team meeting, not a great look. And, for the Bruins, it's the second time it's happened this year. Jake DeBrusk on the first road trip of the season missed one, got benched for a game. I gotta say, it is kind of amazing to me when guys miss them on the road. Like, everyone's in the same hotel, everyone's in the same spot. I don't really get how it happens, and yet it seems to happen more on the road than at home. Like, I could almost understand it more at home, where it's like, I don't, maybe someone hits traffic, gets sidetracked by something going on with their kids. Like, I feel like there would be more excuses at home for it, and yet it does seem to happen more on the road. Yeah,
I mean, oversleeping, maybe. Like, I feel like that's usually the excuse, is oversleeping. Because those meetings can be kind of early, and I guess if you have a wife or a girlfriend or a kid, they're probably waking you up if you're not getting up. Like, you're awake, your kid woke you up. But maybe they're just sleeping too peacefully without their kids on the road, and they're just snoozing right through. Not that Jake DeBrusk has kids, and neither does Derek Forbort.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you can't even get away. Like, I don't think nowadays you can even get away with the old, oh, I didn't change the time zone on my alarm clock or whatever. It's like every phone does that automatically now. So like you can't.
By the way,
that doesn't really fly.
If you've ever been around me in the morning, I have 100 alarms. I have alarms that wake me up. I have alarms when I'm supposed to take my medication, and there's like 5 in a row just in case I'm aloof doing something and I snooze or whatever. I have like 5 alarms from the time of like when I wake up to when I'm supposed to take my medication. That's just like, Bridget, this is what you need to do. Yeah, it's not really a valid excuse. I agree.
Too complicated. I just one alarm for me. That's
no,
all I need.
No, sometimes you just need to make sure that you don't, see, you probably don't have to take medication that you need. Like I need to take it, otherwise I'm in trouble. So that's why I have 100 alarms. I don't think this is Forbort's. This isn't Forbort's excuse though. Like it's not an excuse for missing, and it's embarrassing, right? Like you'd think people wouldn't miss it or be late to it because of the embarrassing factor to it. Like it gives people a reason to be like, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I am interested to see if it, is it, I don't know, like held against him, or does it make Sweeney, more willing or feel more motivated to be like, okay, that's a place where we can, we probably weren't re-signing him in the summer anyways. So there's a chance to move on now and upgrade that spot. Because again, like he has struggled too when he's been on the ice, and you understand he's battled injuries all year, call it an excuse or a reason or whatever. Like it's a factor, because I keep going back to it. I feel like it's gotten completely forgotten. I thought Derek Forbort actually played pretty well at the start of this season. Like I actually thought he started the year fairly well. And then the injuries lingered and he missed time, and he definitely hasn't looked good since coming back from that injury, which, was about probably 6 weeks ago at this point. I think it was like mid-January. Yeah. So yeah, that's, it's a spot that you in the lineup where you circle that and you go, that's like an easy place to look for an upgrade. I also thought Parker Wotherspoon played pretty well getting back in. Him and Kevin Shattenkirk on that third pairing. So I don't know. Going to be interesting. Like I think you almost have to put Forbort back in just so like you make it clear that it was only a 1 game benching, and people don't have to, like, if he sits the next couple of games, people are gonna be like, oh, was it actually 2 or 3 games? Like, did that one missed meeting basically spell the end of his time in Boston? So I assume he'll be back in on Thursday, but I do wonder, if his days as a Bruin are numbered at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question, and it's something that everybody kind of thought when they heard. He could have just as easily been healthy scratch, and people would have understood it that way. But then when you hear it, it's this more of like a character thing. It gets compounded with the play that hasn't been there, and I'm curious Razor would probably disagree with you on that too. He likes shot blocking defensemen, but at a certain point, the cons outweigh the pros. If the guy is slow and he's not clearing pucks when he needs to, and he's bad in transition, like you need defensemen that can move the puck and not be liable to turn it over in transition. And he's obviously not their best puck moving transition defenseman.
Yeah, and he's lost guys in coverage. Like he was in the Vancouver game, he was slow getting over to Brock Besser on a set play off a face-off. He hasn't been able to clear guys out. Like it's just even the things that were are supposed to be strength of his game and that have been in the past just don't seem to be there right now. Like, he's a penalty kill specialist, and in the past it's been like, oh, it's noticeable when they don't have him.
The numbers
the PK
are like
percentage drops. Well, now he's been in there. He's been killing penalties. and the penalty kill still hasn't been very good.
And it's coincided with the drop in the penalty kill. So definitely the argument isn't as strong, right? Like you're whatever arguments there are to be had, like they're kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think a lot of people would not be upset with a trade of Forbort's contract out. The problem is, as Razor says, any cup contending team wants a defender like Derek Forbort, and they'd be willing to give. If that's true, that's great for the Bruins.
Yes, right, exactly. Like, just probably don't send them in conference, but fine. If there's Western Conference teams that want a Derek Forbort, trade them and then turn around and go get something else with that asset. So,
yeah, that'd be great news for the Bruins. And yeah, but then we've also talked about how you think they need to add on defense. But I want to talk about the power play shakeup, because we're talking about like legitimate shakeups around the roster that they do have before they go externally at the trade deadline, which I'm a little bit surprised. Like, sometimes deals happen right around now rather than waiting to the last minute. So we're kind of in a lull right now. There was like a round earlier, and now there's kind of a lull, and then we're waiting for this next rapid. It's going to be like a rapid fire few days at the end here. But anyway, that's a different subject. I want to talk about the shakeup on the power play, because we've had this conversation off the podcast. Is Morgan Geekie on the top power play unit and Jake DeBrusk on the top power play unit solving anything?
No. I mean, again, they scored on the power play on Monday, and it was the only power play they got, so you got to give them credit there, but that was with Coyle on, right? Like, it was kind of that, it was with the second unit, but like some of the first unit was still staying out type thing. Obviously, Pasternak was on the ice, so yeah, I don't think Geekie's specifically Geekie. I don't think is an answer on the top unit. It's clear that they are trying to figure out the bumper. They've all season long they've rotated through Zacha, Coyle, Geekie, and obviously none of them have really run with it. None of them have been great there. There's been times where I think each of them has shown something, and you think, okay, let's give him more time, but it doesn't last. So, I sort of, like, I've said this almost jokingly, but I kind of think it's real. Like, I think they might just not have a good power play bumper player right now. And, I wonder if there's other, like, Jake DeBrusk has played a little bit of bumper in the past. I wonder if they try him at some point. But obviously you're getting late enough in the season that, like, you're sort of running out of time. Sometime in these next few weeks, like, you'd really like to settle on something and have something consistent going into the playoffs. But I think they're still struggling to find that. I also don't like Geekie taking the opening faceoff on a power play because he's not good enough on faceoffs. So
no, and that's possession gone in the first 5 seconds of your power play with your sharpshooters on the ice, like the guys that you want to be in the offensive zone set up for the longest period of time on your power play. In my mind, I'm not saying that they have, and of course, by comparison, no one's going to be Bergeron, right? And that's what the Bruins and Bruins fans are used to watching on the power play and the bumper. Nobody thought anybody was going to come in and do what Bergeron did with that position. It was always going to be at least somewhat diminished compared to that. In my mind, Charlie Coyle is the best option for on that power play unit and on the bumper, because first of all, he's very rarely losing possession. He wins a lot of faceoffs. He doesn't turn the puck over, and he's good at retrieving pucks. He's strong, and he can play the bumper. What are the other better options than him at the bumper? It's not. So far, we don't have one. So in my mind, Charlie Coyle's taking your opening faceoff on the power play and then transitioning to play bumper or, move up and down the slot, switch there, is your better option than Geekie. And I think better option than Zacha. I'm not saying Zacha can't be on the, on the power play or the first or second unit, but I think Coyle is the better face-off guy and better bumper option. So that's what I would do, and I'm not the coach, but
yeah, I think like Coyle's had some even 5-on-5, like some good finishes from around that area, and you see that, and it's like, okay, that's pretty tempting. Like that should work. I think one of the issues with Coyle is I think he plays too slow at times, and I think that's and now at 5-on-5 it can work, but on the power play, I think in general the Bruins have had an issue playing too slow with guys, get a pass, but then don't move it right away and kind of settle it and look around, and like now the defense is already reset, and I think Coyle can be guilty of that too. So if not moving the puck quickly enough is already an issue, like Coyle doesn't really help solve that and potentially makes it worse. So I'm kind of with like right now of the options they have, I would lean towards Coyle. So this isn't even like I wouldn't use him there. I think I would out of the options they have.
Yeah.
But I also see the flaws. Like I also see why Montgomery's hesitant to do it.
Yeah, but like the details of Coyle's game are solid every night, right? Like he might need to move the puck a little faster, but you know what? So could Zacha. Like I think he's the best option. I'm not saying he's, Bergeron, because he's not, but that's in my mind, the way that he plays is more conducive to power play possession, and putting in rebounds than any of the other guys that they've used at bumper. And it makes me wonder why hasn't he gotten a more extended look there? Because he's out there occasionally with the top unit, but it's like usually to take a draw and then get off the ice, and then someone else comes on. And we can talk about Van Riemsdyk too, because he's usually on the top power play unit, and that's where he, that's probably his biggest asset to the Bruins is net front power play and what he can do screening goalies. But we haven't seen him add all that much besides that in the past few games. I mean, when we do our up and down segment, he would be a down. I mean, he's on the fourth line right now. And some of the guys that have been called up have had better games than him over the past stretch.
I didn't like the timing of when Van Riemsdyk got bumped off the first unit, because, he's had a lot of those chances this year where he tries jamming it from the post. And I do think at times that's a low percentage play, but he had actually scored a couple goals right, like 2 games before he got moved off, using that move from that area. And it was then they had one quiet game again and he gets moved off. And it's kind of feel like maybe you should have stuck with that a little bit longer, at least it was something that scored, that produced a result, which they desperately need, because right now not much else is.
Yeah. I mean, last year they added Bertuzzi at the deadline. They tried him on different power play units. If they add a middle 6 forward, you could add another element to the power play. This is part of my way of thinking about what they need most. And just a little bit of maybe someone that can play the bumper, or maybe another option that can be dangerous as a winger, on one of the flanks. And I personally lean that way. I understand there's good arguments to be made for a defenseman, but as long as Lindholm is healthy by then, because he hasn't played in the road trip at all. And as long as the defense seems like it's going to hold up, I'm not 100% in on the big move being a defenseman, right? You could make a move there, but if you're really going all in on a big move, I would rather see a second line forward, middle 6 forward, somebody that they can bring in and plug in on their power play. That's just where my head's at. And Scott, I see you're looking something up.
Yeah, well, because I was just thinking, so the Bruins obviously change out bumper and net front quite a bit. They've rotated through. The three mainstays on the top power play unit have been Pastrnak, McAvoy, and Marchand. And obviously, Pasternak's one of the best power play weapons in the league. No issues there. I do think at times they get a little too over reliant on trying to set up him in the left circle, and sometimes they need other options. And that got me thinking, like, what are Charlie McAvoy and Brad Marchand dangerous enough scoring options on the power play right now? Because it doesn't feel like it. And sure enough, Charlie McAvoy has one power play goal in the season. I get that his primary role there at the top is distributor, but like he's still, I've always thought he needs to be more willing to shoot and more willing to attack downhill. And I don't see it enough. And then I was looking at Brad Marchand, who does have 7 power play goals in the season, but you know how many games it's been since he scored on the power play?
It feels like a while. It feels
19 games.
Wow.
January 13th was the last time Brad Marchand scored a power play goal. Like that, he has to be more of a scoring threat. And I feel like, so I didn't dive into shot numbers, but I feel like his shot total will be lower than it should be during that time too. It just feels like we know he's a pass first player and he always has been on the power play. And that's fine because he always for years had either Pastrnak on the other circle or Bergeron in the bumper as an option. Well, if you're not getting the production out of the bumper, like Brad Marchand needs to be more of a goal scoring threat. And I don't feel like he has been.
And so for a second, I thought it was muted. Sorry. On the second unit, they had Brazeau for one of the games.
Might as well try anything.
That's what I'm for it. Throw him net front if you don't want. If you don't want, I don't know. He's obviously a different style of player than any of the guys on the top unit that currently are there. I mean, it's a huge promotion from someone who we didn't know was going to make an NHL debut during the season at all. But why not? He's got a nose for the puck around the net. I'm okay with trying it for a little bit, but I mean, you got to try something. So I feel like we've been so negative, Scott. Like my mood when I came here.
I'm dragging you down. All,
you did drag me down, and I haven't had the most happy, positive day as it is. I had to sit through Red Sox spring training in a basement and sit in rush hour traffic. So,
oh come on, Bridget. Hope springs eternal. The crack of the bat.
No, God, no.
Everyone's excited, right?
No. No baseball.
They're eventually going to trade. They're going to sign Jordan Montgomery. They're going to trade away Kenley Jansen to do it, and then everyone's going to be excited. Jordan Montgomery is going to save the day. That's extreme sarcasm.
No one is going to. I got no response to that because it's just nothing's gonna help. But after last season, I'm very down on the Red Sox, and I don't see a whole lot of help coming on the horizon. See, you were ready to jump ship on the Bruins. I jumped ship on the Red Sox at some point last season, and I haven't gotten back on. I'm not sure.
I think
water's fine. What'd you say?
I said I think pretty much everyone did.
Yeah, we're all having a fun time, a pool party out here off the ship. But anyway, let's try to be. Can we do something positive? Can we because I don't know. I have something that's making me feel happy, feel positive, right, about the Bruins' upcoming schedule.
Okay.
We're going on a road trip.
Ah, yes. True.
On a road trip. We're going to Montreal. So we're going to head up the day before, hit some breweries. Hopefully the Bruins make it worth our while to go all the way up there. I went last year, the last game of the regular season, had a great time. So It's also a beautiful 80-degree day. I doubt we're gonna get that in March, but you know, and I'm looking
we're
forward
being
to
positive, Bridget. I thought we were being positive.
Okay,
It's
it's gonna
great
be
weather.
85.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
No.
85.
That's too much. 75 is good. 75 and sunny. That's
Yeah, well, I've been to Montreal in April before, and it was hailing miserably. Anyway, I also went to Montreal in April last year, and it was 80 degrees. So we will see.
Yeah, a little earlier. Yeah, I don't think mid-March we're gonna be that lucky, but
no,
who knows?
we
But
picked a whole.
I'm also going to Florida the week after that. So I think I should have good weather down there.
You're killing my buzz again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not making that trip. And I need the sun.
So I'm going down to visit my grandfather, mostly that for the week, but timing it around the Bruins having 2 games down there. And it'll be the first time I've ever been over to the eastern part of Florida, around the Miami area. Obviously, Sunrise a little outside Miami, but I'm hoping, if it works out timing wise, to at least check out some of Miami on the way.
And you're gonna go to the beach and get your tan on, right?
That's right.
You know what they say about Irish people?
I'm not
really well.
I'm not really a beach person, anyways. But like, even just like walking along the boardwalk or something. So
you might want to put SPF 100 on if you take a stroll down the boardwalk. But
yeah, no, I'm just gonna be like the guy who's just gonna be covered. Like my whole face is just white,
your face is like chalky.
Yeah.
I can't make fun of you too much because I'm Swedish, but I do tan actually because of the French Canadian part. But.
So I do too, because I also have Italian and Portuguese in my background. But I got to get like past the Irish first. So it's like there's going to be sunburn to start the summer, but then like it does eventually turn into a tan. I
can't wait to see you come back like a lobster.
Well, I'm sure we'll be recording at least 1 or 2 podcasts while I'm down there. So
you're gonna be having a margarita in your swim trunks.
see how the connection is on South Beach.
Yeah. I remember when Brian recorded from like Animal Kingdom or some shit where there was like hyenas in the background. Like we had to call it off. We were like, the hyenas are just... I don't know what was going on with that, but he also tried to do it from like LA one time in an alley. And that didn't work either. I've tried. I couldn't even connect when I was in the Bahamas. I couldn't even get enough internet to even connect at all. So when I'm gone usually.
Yeah, that's like the only trip I did that where I was like totally off was when I did England and Scotland, and all the Bergeron and Krejci stuff happened. You guys like texted me about like recording. I'm like, I'm not recording. Like, good luck.
I'm already too drunk to record.
Yeah. It was like 1 PM. I'm like, it's 6 PM here. Like, happy hour already started.
Yeah, happy hour was 3 hours ago. Yeah, no, it's okay. I wrote the articles. We did the podcast. It's okay. You enjoyed your Scotland. That's right. Really all the only positive stuff that we got. And guess what? None of that was about the team. But hey.
So what do you think the Bruins do end up doing at the deadline? Like, we're obviously going to cover this. You know, we have several more episodes before the actual deadline on March 8th. But as we sit here right now, like, what do you think they end up doing? Big move, small move, stand pat?
At this particular moment, big move to add a forward. Not Noah Hannafin. They're going to wait him out until the summer. Like they might wait someone like that out until the summer, especially with the connection to Boston and the rumors that he doesn't necessarily want to sign an extension wherever he goes and he's a rental. So wait him out, or wait. You have to wait one aspect of it out.
Yeah. I do think, depending on where Hannafin ends up, like, he could sign an extension somewhere else for sure, because I do think part of him will be like, okay, well, this team made the effort to get me. The Bruins didn't, like, sort of feel,
but
sort of like wanting wanting to be with the team that went all out to get you type
Wanted
thing.
to be wanted. That's
Yes,
all.
exactly.
That's all any of us
Yeah.
want. But also he definitely understands that the market for him is so high. Like, there's just some, like, it's like when you're, if you're a gold digger and you're like, okay, well, not everybody that wants to date you has enough money to date you and take you on expensive dates. So you're gonna have to wait, a little bit. Get your payday. It'll come for you later in the off season, maybe. I mean, the market for him is gonna be really high. Like, of the people that are rumored to be available, he's up there. Like, he's way up there.
Yeah, it will be, but I also wonder if it stays like relatively within reason. Like I would still be kind of surprised if someone gives him like 8 million a year, say, or like more than that. Like I kind of feel like there's still a bit of a ceiling because I think I feel like most teams understand he's not like a true number one. He's like a really solid 2, 3, 4 guy. So I don't know. I'll be interested, but he is also in his prime, like so that helps for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. And he probably can get a lot on the open market too, like as a free agent. So he probably wants to dip his toes in that when the season's over. I wish Jake Guentzel was going to be available for not a ridiculous price. Like, I like Jake Guentzel. That would be my like big move choice, but I think he's probably out of reach as well with what Pittsburgh is going to want for him. But I've always liked him as a player. Also, I gave him the nickname Pretzel. I don't think anyone else calls him that. But yeah, I call him he's Pretzel to me. And
You call him this like in real life, like you just
yes.
you chat with Jake Guentzel and you're like, "What's
Yeah,
up, Pretzel?"
no, you want to hear a funny story about this actually though? I was in a bar in Nashville. The entire Penguins team was there till about 3 a.m. We stayed there till 3 a.m. because we're like, they're here. Well, let's just hang out. So when I noticed they were there, I was panicking because Sidney Crosby was there, and everybody could probably understand based on comments I've made on this podcast that I would be freaked out by that would make me stop breathing or something. But I saw Jake Guentzel first, and I yelled to my cousin. I said, "Pretzel's here," and she said, "You want a pretzel?" And I said, "No, you don't get it. Pretzel's here." And she's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's a hockey player." And then Sidney Crosby and Phil Kessel were sitting in the far corner trying to hide from everyone. But yeah. So yes, I do call him Pretzel in real life.
Yeah, I would love Jake Guentzel. Like he's awesome. I know certainly some of his success has been because he's always been online with either Crosby or Malkin, usually Crosby. But he's a great offensive player in his own right and really does it all, like finisher, playmaker. He gets to the front of the net. I think when I wrote up the like forward targets, which actually we haven't recorded since then. So by the way, people can check that out. On Monday at weei.com, I posted 16 forward targets. I maybe got a little carried away and just kind of kept adding names to it, but he was on there as obviously one of the top targets.
Scott's drafting a whole new team.
Well,
16 different forwards.
I will say as I was going through it,
trade the whole team piece by piece for the other.
Yeah, trade your entire all your
just try to swap it all out. That's a big trade deadline right there.
No, but I do think there's more forward options, or at least it looks like there will be, than defensemen. Which isn't surprising. Like usually impact defensemen are hard to come by, just like top 2 centers are hard to come by. But it does seem like there's quite a few wing options, especially like in the middle 6 range. And then there's definitely, fourth line depth options. Like those guys are always there. But
yeah,
I mean, even guys like Anthony Mantha in Washington or Riley Smith if you stick in Pittsburgh.
Bounced around at trade deadlines, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, Washington made that big trade for him. They gave up a ton, and he really didn't pan out. He had like a few down years, and is finally bouncing back this year, and like everyone, he kicked the crap out of Nick Cousins over the weekend on Saturday. Had like
he's a big guy.
He dropped the gloves with him. Yeah, he does have a lot of size in Nick Cousins, so he should win that fight. But everyone loved that because everyone hates Nick Cousins. He's a pest. He's annoying. But yeah, but like he's also shooting by far the best shooting percentage of his career. So I think people should be a little weary there. Like his goal scoring is probably going to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, come back down to the average.
Yeah. But it, for Washington, like I'm sure they're thrilled because they're like, okay, well, we can sell, as high as they can. They're never going to get back what they gave up for him because they way overpaid. But
yeah, I don't mind him. I don't mind him either. But I feel and this is probably an out of reach idea, but if we're talking about like what I'd be excited to see the Bruins do at the trade deadline, like what they should be willing to do something crazy for, like Jake Guentzel would be someone that, but what does Pittsburgh want that the Bruins have?
Right. And how do you make the salary work? Like Guentzel is worth a shakeup, but it would be really complicated. Like,
yes,
they're unless they traded away Tristan Jarry or something, like they're not going to be in the market for Linus Ullmark. So, that wouldn't really be certainly not all as part of the same trade package. You'd have to get another team involved, and it. No matter what the Bruins do, it's going to be complicated. It's really
it's
like the
overarching.
Like, yeah, it's
the
like
answer
really the
is
overarching
prospects.
Yeah, right. And the Bruins don't have those, and would still have to clear out money in order to make the deal work. So,
yeah,
not easy.
Just find a way to get Pretzel. That's what I'm going to tell Don Sweeney in the elevator next time I see him. And he's going to also be like, there's pretzels right here. What are you talking about?
I was going to say, are you going to start doing pretzel time? Because we do get pretzels up in the press box too. So
if he comes, yes. If he's on the team, yes, pretzel time. It's pretzel time. And I'll copy Scott's popcorn time segment.
Crossover.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's a little bit optimistic to end off, right?
Sure.
Having a crack dream about adding
right,
Jake Guentzel.
dreaming about guys that they're not going to trade for. So.
Yeah, but might as well trade for this Sidney Crosby.
I mean, while we're doing that, my binky's Pavel Buchnevich, a player I've always really liked, but don't think they're getting him either. So
no, my favorite thing is that people actually think they're going to trade Sidney Crosby out of Pittsburgh, and I'm like, that's not going to happen. Don't get my hopes up like that. But yeah, no, not going to happen. Anyway, what a fun podcast this was. Who knew we needed Brian to keep us, in high spirits? He would have found a way.
No, but Brian would have been on my side, I think, and you would have been. Then you would have really been swimming upstream trying to keep things positive.
I don't know. He's on my side with a lot of stuff. You're the wild card this year.
Someone's got to keep people on their toes. It can't be predictable.
Yeah, no. I'm too even headed or something. I don't know.
I mean, I think I usually am, but like at some point when you just keep seeing the same thing over and over again, it's like it's hard for me to be like Razor and be like, no, it's fine. Like they'll figure it out. There's still time. I'm like, is there though? Because the trade deadline's 10 days away. So kind of have to decide if you have to do something or not real soon.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get his opinion on Sunday Skate. He was on Jones and Mego today, but I didn't get a chance to listen. But
I was listening. It was good.
The voice of reason in any talk show about the Bruins. Bring in Raycroft.
They also because he was in for like almost an hour, at least 45 minutes. So they were also like taking calls on football and Patriots and drafts and stuff. So Razor had to do some crossover and
well,
talk,
yeah, he did. He was talking to Fitzy about who the Patriots should draft on the way out of the office after Sunday skate. He had his opinions, and I was like, he knows more about football, like about this draft than I do.
Yeah,
he's on top of it.
Yeah, Razor can do it all. He's been around long enough. Like he's lived here for years and years now, so he knows what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, tune into Sunday Skate. that was just all a long plug for that. Is there anything else?
If the Bruins keep choking, we're gonna have to transition to Pat's draft talk too.
No.
Yeah.
No. Don't even
not Red Sox though. We're definitely not.
Don't even. Yeah. No. No. Sorry, I'm vetoing that.
If you want me to be positive, we can do Celtics. I'll be plenty positive about the Celtics.
Yeah, that's easier. That's easier. We'll get Terp on, our Celtics writer would transition.
Sunday shoot around.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Not quite there yet, guys. Maybe if they're both in the playoffs again, we do a combined show. I like that. I like that a lot.
I fear for us that the Celtics are once again going to be going a couple rounds deeper than the Bruins, but
there he goes again. All right, let's send it on a low note now, I guess. All right, unless there's anything else you got to say.
Anyways, have fun, everyone. Everything sucks.
Yeah. All right. Great. I can't wait for Brian to come back next episode. All right. Wait, I should probably say what the upcoming schedule is. So, can they beat Vegas? They play Vegas.
Who, by the way, is also struggling a bit. They've not had an easy go of it recently.
That is going to be Thursday night at home, and then the Bruins head to the road again. So to start March, they go to Islanders, they go to Toronto, and then they have a back-to-back where they come home and play the Oilers. That's not going to be easy. Then they play Toronto again. Jeez, that's not an easy stretch. Those Toronto games should be pretty interesting, as well as a Vegas game. So, I won't be there because I'm broadcasting a PC hockey game. But Scott, you got this.
And I think I don't know if we 100% said this, but I'm assuming we're going to be recording sometime Friday after that Vegas game.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bridget will be playing catch up because, as she said, she has other duties to attend to.
What happens is I just watch it in the morning, and then it's fresh in my mind, and then we record. But I finally have a Friday off from college hockey, believe it or not, because for some reason a bunch of games this week and the next few weeks for the men are Thursdays. So, all right. That's it. That's what we got. That's all we got today.
All done.
Well done. It's it's getting late. Closing time. All right. I'm gonna say goodbye. Thank you all for listening. Normally Brian does this part. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.